Okay, Army Regulation 655, Personal General Motor Vehicle Driver Equipment Operator Selection, Training, Testing, and Licensing. Summary of trains, Army 655, Motor Vehicle Driver Equipment Operation Selection, Training, and Testing, and Licensing. The revisions add a requirement for the commanders to provide training Army motor vehicle drivers and ground support equipment operators, paragraph 1415F. Adds standards of training Army military and civilian wheeled vehicles and tracked vehicle operations, paragraph 15F and chapter 3. Adds standards of selecting, training, and testing licensing Army military civilian ground support equipment operators, chapter 3. Updated policies and standard procedures throughout. Testing. Alright, I'm good. Okay, motor vehicle driver equipment operator selection, training, and testing and licensing of the Personnel General AR Regulation 655, effective date 27th October 1986, headquarters Department of Army, Washington, D.C., 26, 1986. The update of the printing publishing revision effective in 27th October 1986. Because of the structure, the entire revised text has been reorganized. No attempt has been made to highlight the changes from earlier recognition of the date of 25th of January 1968. By order of the Secretary of Army John A. Wilcam, Jr., General United States Army Chief of Staff, and J.R.L. Dilworth, Brigade General of the United States Army Function General. Summary. The regulation governs the selection, the training, of the testing, and licensing motor vehicle and the drivers and equipment operators. Applicability. The regulation applies to the active Army, U.S. Army Reserves, the Army National Guard. It applies to the Department of the Army, the civilian employees, and non-appropriated funded employees, youth student assistant program employees, foreign materials directly and indirectly employed by the DA, and contractor personnel operating Army vehicles and equipment. The impact on the new manning system. This regulation does not contain information that affects the new manning system. Internal control system. This regulation is not subject to the requirements of the AR 11-2. Does not contain internal control provisions. Supplementation of this regulation establishes forms of the DA forms prohibited and prior to the approval of the headquarters of the Department of the Army, DAPE, HARS, Washington, D.C., 2310. 0300. Intern changes to the regulation official unless the authenticated by the audited adjunction general. User will destroy interim changes on the expiration date unless superseded or resigned. Suggested improvements. The proponent agency of the regulation office of the Deputy Chief of Staff personnel users are invited to send comments and suggested improvements to the DA Form 2028. Recommended changes to publication forms directly Commander of the U.S. Army Safety Center. Attention PESP-PR Fort Rucker, Alabama 36-2-5363. Distribution of the issue has been in accordance with DA Form 12-9A-R requirements of 600 series publication. The number of the copies distributed to given and subscribed. The number of copies requested by Block 383 and 382 of the subscriber to DA Form 12-9A-R or AR 650. 655. Distribution of B is for the active Army forming. It's for Army National Guard and U.S. Army Reserve. For the future distribution of this publication will remain for the same unless publication as account officers adjust the quantities enclosed in the subscription card. The contents, Chapter 1, Purpose, Reference, Explanation, Abbreviation, Terms, Responsibility, General Driver Selection, Training, Testing, and Licensing, Test, Administration, Supply. Chapter 2, Driver Categories, General, User Drivers, Civilian Drivers, Physically Handicapped Person, Foreign National Drivers, Contractor, Employed, or Other Service Operators. Chapter 3, Driving Training, General Tactical Wheel Driver Training, and Emergency Vehicle Training, Mechanical Ground Support Equipment Training, Specialized Training, Retraining. Chapter 4, Driving Test Stations and Teams, Location Functions, Driving Test Personnel, Driving Testing Station Facilities, Examiner Qualifications. Chapter 5, Licensing, Standard Permits, Other Permits, Renewals, Suspension, Revocations, Operator Responsibilities, Reassignability of Personnel, Replacement of Permits. Chapter 6, Mechanical Ground Support Equipment, General and Procedures. Appendix A, Reference Appendix B, Sample of Wheeled Vehicle Driver Training Courses. C, a sample of emergency vehicle driver training courses and glossary. Chapter 1. This purpose. The regulation establishes the policy, the procedures of selection, training, and testing, and the licensing operator of the Army wheeled and tracked vehicles equipment. 1-2. The reference equipped with the related publication prescribed in the reference for listed in Appendix A. 1-3. Explanation and abbreviation of the terms. Abbreviation and special terms used in the regulation are explained in the glossary. 1-4. Responsibility. The Deputy Chief of Staff of the personnel will develop a policy concerning the selecting and the testing and licensing and the equipment of the vehicle operator. The Deputy Chief of Staff of the operations, the DCSOPs will, Deputy Chief of Staff of the operations will develop a policy concerning driver training. Commanding General, U.S. Army Material Command, AMC, will acquire the vehicle equipment to foster maximum safe operations and are crash worthy. Developing operator procedures, including emergency procedures for the vehicles and equipment. Commanding the General of the U.S. Army Training Doctrine Command of the TRADOC will develop a training package to support products with generic wheeled and tracked vehicle operating training, including critical tasks prescribed and condition standards necessary. Hardware. The hardware proponent will obtain the input of the Commander, U.S. Army Transportation School, USASTSCH. Attention, AATSP, ATSP TDI 4 Utis, Virginia 236045401 on the general aspects of the general on driving training, driver training, submitting the training package product to the U.S. Army Training Transportation School for approval. However, the specific vehicle-oriented training packages, training the support materials will be responsible for the TRADOC school that is hardware proponent. The proponent will develop a mission-specific training such as the military policy and the fire trucks and crash rescue vehicles, ambulances, as part of the development procedures of wheeled, tracked, and ground support equipment. U.S. Army Training School Transportation School will be identified, providing with a critical operator driver task condition standard. The TRADOC hardware proponent final products will be coordinated with the U.S. Army Training School Transportation School for approval. Installation of commanders in the Army National Guard, State and Territory Adjutant General will select, train, test licensed vehicle operator and equipment operators, staff, driver testing stations, and sufficient qualified, experienced vehicle operator available to support mobilization teams. 4. Implement the regulation imposing additional requirements not in conflict with this regulation to be made necessary by the local traffic conditions, civil restrictions, experience the desired standards of operator performance made preventive maintenance installation. Transportation officer has the ability to operate the training and the organization of transportation officer and the motor maintenance officer and designated individual may be assigned as function. The U.S. Army Reception Station commanders, the U.S. Army National Guard recruiting and retention officers will administer the motor vehicle driver selection battery to receipt of for personnel without valid state driver's license as part of the reception station process. The 2. Administrative disposition of the test score will be supervised by and with the provisions of Regulations 600, 200, and AR 611-5 and AR 612-201. If the general driver selection training, testing, licensing, motor driver testing procedures include motor vehicle driver selection battery, MDB1, and series written test of the DPAM 611-16 to determine the driving aptitude, basic knowledge, motor vehicle operational replacement stream enlisted personnel process through the reception stations will be administered by the MDB motor vehicle driving selection battery as part of the reception process according with the regulation of the AR 612-201 to test results. Raw score of the MD1 will be converted in the standard score specified by the DAPAM 611-120. Standard score will be entered in the Block 10 of the DA Form 2-1, including enlisted qualification record in accordance with the AR 600-200. As a score below 85 will be considered a failing grade. The MDI standard score will also be entered on the DA Form 348 equipment operator qualification record, except for the aircraft, provided the individual being licensing the vehicle ground support equipment operator. A motor vehicle driver selection battery 2, the MDB2 series, is written in a manual specified in the DPA PAM 310-8 and determine the operator judgment, visual dexterity, eye, hand, and coordination. A minimum of the MDB2 testing is required for licensed personnel, including reverse reserve components, who attain the score less than 85 of the MD1, who did not receive the MD1 or reception test, who do not possess a valid state driver's license. Success completion of the MD2 must be accomplished by the person prior to the receiving of the SF-46 U.S. Government Motor Vehicle Operation Identification Card. If a person fails a portion of the test, for testing will begin on the failed portion of the test, provided appropriate retraining has been given. Standard scores of the MDB2 motor driver's battery will be in block of 10 the DA Form 2-1. Military personnel in the appropriate personnel or civilian employees, contractual personnel, or the DA Form 348 equipment operator qualification record, except aircraft prior to the individual being licensed as a vehicle operator. Passing score of the MDB2 is 80, and higher score of the passing score of the MD2 may be prescribed for the operators of emergency vehicles, police, patrol, firefighting, ambulance, non-tactical personnel careers as buses, vehicles carrying 9 or more passengers, while carrying hazardous cargo, or where warranted accident experience special operations. Score of 82 on the emergency judgment test, the CDA PAM 611-125 indicates a new need of special training. C. Physical evaluations measures. A series of psychological tests will be administered means of the standard driving test, the training device to evaluate the application of physical qualification and limitations to provide a basis for counseling and guidance. Every 5 years, years are divisible by 5. Qualified medical personnel or installation, state, army, National Guard level administrative, the physical examination to each operator applicant as follows. The SF-78 United States Civil Service Commission Certificate of Medical Examination, SF-888 Report of Medical Examination, and SF-93 a Report of Medical History. This examination will determine that there are medical, pathological, psychological, physiological restrictions that would limit the application's ability to operate the vehicle's equipment. The restriction is noted that the report of the individual commander, the supervisor's appropriate restriction will be entered in the SF-46 and DA Form 348. Anyone who fails any portion of the examination will be referred to as an appropriate medical officer for the judgment as to whether or not he or she is particularly physically qualified for driving. These provisions will not be used on a basis disqualifying civilian operators who meet the physical standards for civilian motor vehicle operation. Incident operators listed in the Federal Personnel Manual, Chapter 930, and individual selected operator training must be physical evaluation measures unless the opinion of the medical authorities. Weakness indicated the corrective and compensated by the means of counseling and guidance incident for the training. D. Driver's interviews. Driver's interviews determined on attitude, maturity, and past driving record, an important part of the program selecting training, qualification, retraining the Army vehicle operator, as will conduct. The commander for the supervisor of potential operative testing and training organization will complete the DA Form 348 and prior to the issuance of the permit, information obtained during interviews together with the scores other than data will be recorded in the DA Form 348 before the individual licenses a vehicle equipment operator. If the application is suspended or suffering from psychological disorder, the commander or the supervisor will refer to the application appropriate medical officer for the judgment whether or not he or she is qualified for driving. E. The National Driver Regulation. The Department of Transportation provides essential driver records and identification that contains information on the drivers whose license has been denied, suspended, revoked. Each state provides a dot with the data of the register. Any commanders will not provide a dot with data in the SF-46 suspension or revocation actions. Drivers examiners may use the data complied with the NDR, as evaluating applications for the SF-46. A minimum driver examination will use the NDR to verify the driver's record on initial application. The SF-46 is the application does not process the valid state driver's license when the issue of the activity has reason to suspect poor driving record of the application of the valid state license. Driver's examiner may also use the NDR issuing the new or renewal of the SF-46. Use the Data received from the NDR will be used for the issuing agency to deny the above approve the SF-46 issue and renewal actions. Vehicle or equipment operator training programs. Before taking a performance test, initial military operation applications will be completed advanced individual training or in the unit driver operating training at prescribed critical task of the vehicle's equipment for which they are to be licensed. Equipment operators will be required to successfully complete a written evaluation of the substantial technical knowledge of the equipment to which the license is desired. Installation activity. Army, National Guard, U.S. Army Reserves may require individuals to complete training for the remedial or administrative reasons of paragraph 3BA. For the failure to pass an annual preference evaluation, the training will be based on a prescribed critical task. The driver's performance evaluation each application must successfully complete a driver operator performance evaluation after the initial training based on the prescribed critical task for each of the vehicle equipment series. Annual, all operators will be required yearly and every other year of the U.S. Army Reserve and Army National Guard to successfully complete a performance test based on the prescribed critical task in particular series of wheels and wheels of vehicles, series of vehicles and equipment that they are required to operate. Retesting is to be completed within 30 days following the reissue. State driver's license or within 90 days before the end of the operator's birth month. Failure to successfully complete the evaluation will result in a suspension of license if successfully retraining retesting is completed. Testing and retesting application for new and renewed permits who do not have a valid state driver's license are administered with the appropriate battery test and physical evaluation measures driver, interviews driver performance, a documented record of successful completion of the Motor Driver Battery 1 and Motor Driver Battery 2. Possession of valid state driver's license will accept the exam application for the retaking of the battery test. The failure to pass any required battery phase of the test will result in disqualification. Will stop further testing an individual time and retesting the Motor Drive Battery 2 will begin with the phase of the applicant failed, providing appropriate retraining has been given. Retesting the Motor Driver Battery 1 is not authorized. Records. A DA Form 348 and a DA Form 348-1R, the continuation sheet appropriate, will be maintained on every person who operates a vehicle or equipment owned and leased in the Army in accordance with the Field Manual FF 5530. The DA Form 348-1R is located in the back of the regulation. It will be locally reproduced in 8.5 by 11-inch paper. The DA Form 348 will be withdrawn from military personnel records jacket maintained in the military vehicle driver equipment operators if included from the official personnel files. The OPFs maintained on the U.S. government civilian employees. The DA Form 348 the forward supervisor responsible for the control of the unit, organization, vehicle, or equipment operator. A copy of the DA Form 348 will be presented upon the application of the renewal of the permit. The system will be established among the driver, supervisor, safety officers, provost, marshal offices, motor pools, and ensure the accurate, timely recording of the DA Form 348 accidents, moving traffic violations, training, driving awards. Forms will be reviewed, updated as files annually. The driver supervisor may or personnel responsible for motor vehicle operations to determine the driver's eligibility for safe driving awards, expiration permits, and refresh training requirements. By driver supervisor after accident, moving traffic violation involving Army motor vehicle to determine if and the need for remedial refresher driving training, re-examination, license suspension, other corrective measures. When an operator is released and transferred to the regular driver, the operator duty the proper personnel officer must ensure that the posted DA Form 348 is provided before giving clearance for the transfer. The following may be entered into the form: information, official qualification, background, experience. C, the examination findings. D, the performance record. E, the driver awards. F, the all charges moving for the traffic violations while driving in the military privately owned vehicle. G, the suspension, revocation of the state and host nation driving privileges. H, the accidental history. Counsel, guidance, and retraining. The application should be assisted overcoming the correcting physiological or psychological handicaps, poor driving equipment operating habits. Counseling and retraining is necessary part of the licensing process. This must be accomplished before issuing the permits and using the completion of the test phase. Review the SF SF 78, 88, and 93, and driving the performance test. Application will be advised of deficiency without diligency and of items scored on relaxation of standards, and how to correct the errors. In no case should the score of MDB1 or MBD2 be used in counseling purposes. The application may be referred to as the medical officer. The application may be referred to the medical officer as appropriate case, and the individual may be given a retraining of the correcting deficiency. After receiving such an assistance, the application may be retested for the qualification. 1.8. Test administrating supply specific procedures administrating all testing that be described in DAPAM 611-125, which covers the motor vehicle driver performance physical evaluation testing. General testing conditions prescribed in the AR 611-55 will apply for the administrative motor vehicle driver selection test. B. The test materials, including booklets, answer sheets, scoring keys, manuals required of the administrative motor vehicle driver selection test are contained in the DAPAM 611-16. The test materials should be requisitioned installed in the activity test control officer reappointed in accordance with the AR 611-5. The U.S. Army Publication Center, the 2800 Eastern Boulevard, Baltimore, Maryland, 21220. 2896 motor vehicle driver selection test material will be secured in accordance with AR 611-5. Drivers, Chapter 2, Drivers Categories.